You know what it is, Monday, January 9th. Give us this day our daily bread. Welcome to Daily Bets with the Spittin Statistician. I am Dane Martinez, the Spittin Statistician, and with me today to break down the natty Georgia and TCU is my guy, Michael Govier. How are you doing, Mike? Happy New Year. I haven't spoken to you in a couple of weeks, but, happy 2023. We're going to make it pop. We're going to get paid in 2023, right?
Someone's going to get paid. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't know if it'll be me or you, but I hope somebody makes some money, and I can't wait to see what happens tonight in the National Championship game, the CFP. It's very painful for me. You'd think that I'd be in a hole still after my Wolverines lost to these TCU Horned Frogs in a wildly epic game. But, gambling goes on. A new day has dawned, and I got to go get my Skrilla.
Yeah, I hear you. And when you talk about people getting paid, maybe your, now current coach, maybe soon to be former coach, Jim Harbaugh might be someone who gets paid very soon in 2023 as well. Having some conversations out there, but we'll leave the rest of Black Monday in the NFL for another show and another game. But I do want to ask you though, Mike, you saw TCU in the semifinals, right? Were you able to glean anything off that you can apply tonight? I know we're getting into some of the props, some of the guys you think may get into the end zone, but after seeing TCU up close in the semifinal, you had a little bit of an advanced scouting report. What did you notice? What do you think can be applied, if anything, to the Natty tonight?
I got a very detailed understanding. I watched that game with focused eyes, laser focus. Your team is in the semifinal of the college football playoffs, so it's the kind of game where even though Michigan lost, you're right, I was able to take a lot away from it. And what I took from it is that this is in sour grapes now. I've always prided myself on being very objective and keeping it real. I'm not going to tell you guys lies. I'm not going to be caught up through the lens of the fan focus. I'm not some Michigan slappy. That's not who I am. I went to Michigan. I love Michigan, but this is gambling, and it's real talk. So Michigan gave away a lot of opportunities in that game. They did. But so did TCU. TCU made a lot of mistakes that allowed Michigan to have a chance to win that game despite their own mistakes. So I really take away the fact that if Michigan hadn't have zone blitzed as much, had stayed home, had changed their second half philosophy, there would have been less opportunity, especially that play to Quentin Johnston, the final dagger, if you will, late in the game, that 75-yarder, where Duggan just extended the play long enough to stay drifting right, and the blitz was burned. And, of course, a guy did fall down. There was some talk about the grass, but I don't care about that. I care about the fact that you got to know what you're doing correctly, what's working, what's not. You have to – one of the best things about Bill Belichick, who's considered one of the greatest coaches ever, is that every game was a new philosophy, a new game plan.
And you got to do left-handed, whatever the thing is, right? Taking the best thing away. Yeah,
exactly. Dane. So my point here is that TCU is exposable here, and that's why you'll see with the props coming up why I feel that way after what I saw in that semifinal game, which is a total victory for them. Kudos to TCU. They did it right, and they did it their own way.
Okay, so you're saying a little bit, Mike, that TCU is exposable, even though like 12 or 13 or 14 other teams have tried to expose them so far this year and haven't been able to do so. Shout out to Kansas State being the only team that was able to beat TCU so far. So what does that mean? It sounds to me, kind of from a big picture standpoint, that you don't necessarily think TCU is going to kind of keep up with these dogs as they try to go back to back in the Natty. And as I look at one of your prop plays or your team total, let's say, you think maybe TCU got a little bit lucky to get into the 40s or 50s, whatever it was, and you think this Georgia defense will be able to kind of handle the Horned Frogs tonight?
It's really tough. This is one I've agonized over, Dane. I really have. I'm going to tell you guys how it is for me, because when you look at the spread, I bet spreads. That's like my bread and butter. That's really been – I made it – you can go to FTN, FTN subs. You can look at my bet tracker. I've had a really successful season, 32 units, over 30 games, over 500 in spreads alone. So that's good. That's legit. And that's over the whole season. We're talking hundreds of plays. So – I really had a hard time defining if TCU would stay close enough or not. Georgia's going to win this game. I really believe that, but it's all about those points. And TCU's played so many close games, like you said. That's where I've agonized. I'm like, whoa, they're going to lose, but will they stay within that number as it currently stands? That's been the biggest challenge for me. And I took Georgia. This is not one of my plays here on the show, but I took Georgia and to lay the points, but I don't feel good about it. I am a little nervous about it. It could be a 10-point defeat because Georgia's defense isn't what it was last year. They've been exposed, even by LSU when they got up big in the SEC championship game. There was still a lot of points to be had in the second half for LSU.
Yes. Yeah, no, I agree with that. And to be quite honest, I'll give you my play on the game because I'm seeing it similar to you. I do think Georgia wins this game. I don't necessarily know if they cover the number. And by the way, at last check, Georgia I saw as a 13.5-point favorite. Look out for that hook. I will say this, at some shops, the total has dropped a little bit today. I saw it at 63.5 over the weekend. It now stands, at least at FanDuel, at 62.5. And that number 63 is kind of important when it comes to college football. If you could see a 33-30 final, then watch out for the movements today. But where I'm going to go, I agree with you. I think Georgia wins this game. I think it's a cute, nice story. I think Georgia wins the game. I don't know if they're going to cover. And like you, I kind of expect points in this one, Mike. Okay. You talked about the Georgia defense last year. That Georgia defense was, allowing 7 points, 3 points, 0 points, 10 points. This has been a little bit different. You talked about LSU. I saw Ohio State put up 40 some odd points against them. I saw TCU put up 40 some odd points against a Michigan physical defense that I also thought was good. So I'm putting them together. You see in a lot of shops, they've got that money line total parlay, and that's what I'm doing. Give me the Georgia Bulldogs money line and over 61.5 points. Those two things together, you can get at plus 120, at least at FanDuel. And I like something else you said, although I just haven't found the number for it yet. If I could, Michael, I would now take the over on the second half, okay? Because I think in the first half, we get a little bit of the feeling each other out, sensing it. Is the moment too big? A lot of times these games start slow and then they open up big time in the second half. I think the majority of these 60 some odd points will happen in the second half. I do think Georgia ultimately will win back-to-back national championships. Put it all together. Give me Georgia on the money line and over on the number. And you can get that at like plus 115, plus 120, plus 125 if you put it together, Mike.
Yeah, make for a nice little Monday evening. Maybe you make a couple bucks and you get to watch an entertaining game, the final game of the 2022 college football season. I will tell you, Dane, just for the record, I have taken the under for the overall total. I got it at 63, and I took the under. Okay. I think it's going to be a super duper tight sweat. I'm not saying you might be on tilt big time, but
it's very possible.
Yeah, I'm taking the under only because of the way I see the game, which we're going to dive into here now.
Okay, so you're on the under, and it seems like you're also on the under specifically on the Horned Frog side as it relates to that team total, right, Mike?
That's right. This is the situation for me. If TCU is going to lose, and I think Max Duggan's going to go backwards a bit in this game. He wasn't that great. He had big plays, but his completion percentage against Michigan, the overall consistency, he had picks, right? It wasn't like a well-played game by Max Duggan. He just made clutch plays, but Michigan couldn't capitalize off the turnovers enough, and they couldn't stop the bleeding in the end, like I said, with the blitz and the zone blitzes. And if they just changed their ways, things would have been different. But they didn't, and TCU won it. But Max Duggan is going up against the Georgia defense, which isn't what it was last year, Dane, but it is still a SEC D. They've been there before. And here's the other key thing. Georgia was embarrassed by the way they played against Ohio State. They're so lucky to be here. That's why I'm really buying into the narrative that Georgia gets it. They were here last year. They won it all. Same quarterback, same coaching staff, a lot of players coming back for the most part, and they get what they did last week was bogus. They're like, whoa, my God, woo! How did we get through? We got through. Okay, great. We're not going to take that for what it is. We're going to be humble and keep it real, and now we're going to go out and close it out. That's how I see it.
All right, fair enough. So who's the first prop that you got for it? Either someone to get into the end zone. I know you got a team total as well. And talking about Duggan, right? I mean, he makes it to New York for the Heisman Trophy, right? He's someone who, like you said, extends plays. He's someone who makes plays out of the pocket, like when it's clutch time, right? He's apparently got that gene, and that's gotten him to New York for the Heisman finale. That also got this team into the national championship, but it doesn't look like you're willing to ride him tonight.
Nope, I am not. I'm taking the under on Max Duggan's passing yardage. Now, to be upfront, guys, I'm mainly a DK Sportsbook guy. Of course, shop around. Get the best prop play. Use our odds. Our odds and our prop odds, it's such a great tool. It's really, really good. And I do use it when I have access to other sports books. But
prop shop right there.
Yeah,
there
the
you
prop
see
shop.
Get the best line definitely at the prop
Let's
shop.
go. Absolutely. Yes. But due to my situation right now, it's a weird living situation. So I'm caught up between some weird laws. So I'm limited in terms of shopping for the sports books I want to.
Traveling across state lines, is that it?
Yeah, international lines. Yeah, I got a Canadian girlfriend, so it makes things complicated, oddly enough. But I will tell you this. That's why I'm playing DK, and I'm taking under on Duggan's passing total, which is, I got it at 234.5 yards. I'm going to go with the script here where last time out, he didn't throw for a ton of yards. He had some big plays. I'm expecting inconsistency here. And even if they have to play catch up, if you expect Georgia to blow them out and to get out way ahead, which I really don't. I don't think that's going to happen. I think this will be a game that kind of slogs along a bit, like you said in the first half, and maybe picks up in the second half, where it's not really a blowout at any time until maybe the final score when Georgia's up maybe 17 points in the end. Right. But if that's the way I see it, that's why I see Duggan not having to throw a lot. Even if he does try to throw a lot, I think he runs into problems. So that's why I'm taking the under.
All right, fair enough. And the idea of if TCU keeps it close, that kind of helps your prop because they don't get kind of game scripted out of it, right? Because if they are down, say like 2-3 scores, then it's on Duggan's arm. Then maybe there is more passing, but you like TCU to kind of keep it close. Now, Michael, we are both of a similar age. And I remember back in the day, I used to get these like cassette singles. Okay, when like a single would come out, it'd be the hot new song or whatever. And I used to always love that. I get the single, but then there would always be something on the B-side of that single. And I think that tonight, the B-side is where I am going with some of my props. I look at the Georgia side, right? And you obviously know about McIntosh. He's been an incredible running back, right? But so has DeWan Edwards. Okay, if you look at the difference, I mean, McIntosh has only something like 40 more carries all year. That breaks out to like 2 or 3 more per game. Their difference in yards is also like 40 or 50 for the entire year. McIntosh is at 779 yards for the season. Edwards is at 739 yards for the season. That difference is not big. Then I go in and I look at the props for them both, and McIntosh tonight is at 63.5, but Edwards tonight is at 49.5. I think these guys are similar. I think they get similar touches. I think they will both be needed. So I'm going to the B side of the cassette single, Michael, and I'm taking Edwards over his rushing prop of 49.5. You see it all the time in these big time games. There's someone who kind of is not the prototypical lead dog that winds up having a huge game. And I think Edwards is prime for that. He's gone over this number in his last 4 games. Okay, so there is history. There is precedent there for him getting 50 plus. And to your point, I think it's going to be close, but I do think ultimately, maybe late third quarter, early fourth quarter, TCU will make that big mistake, that kind of break of serve, if you will. And then there will be some running out of the clock. And I like Edwards to be a part of that. I think the game script helps me there. I'm going with Edwards over 49.5. I got to tell you, Mike, the best one for me, I bought the Wu-Tang Clan Protect Your Neck single. And then on the back of it was Method Man, which was also an incredible song. So the B-side is very important, my man. What do you think?
METHOD, man. All right. I love it.
Absolutely. So we're going with Edwards. I think both of them will be involved. Where else are you going when it comes to the Natty? I know you got a team total, and you also have someone who you think hits pay dirt tonight.
Yeah, let's talk to pay dirt. And I think this is a guy who he gets constantly dismissed. He looks like a doofus to some people for some reason. I don't think of that. I look at a guy who is the classic American underdog. He really is. And Stetson Bennett is that man. Stetson Bennett, you proved everybody wrong. And if you come out as a back-to-back national champion as the quarterback, going through the playoff, too, not just a bowl game. You got to win the playoffs. That's incredible. That'll be an incredible feat. And he'll be, seriously, in college football lore, he'll be one of the greater quarterbacks to be remembered. He really will be. And that's fantastic. So in that state of mind, we also forget that he can run. Dude can run. So I'm expecting him to get over the goal line. I'm taking him at plus 160 anytime touchdown score. Of course, he's got to use his legs, right? That's how it works with the quarterback. He's got to break the plane himself. So I'm expecting him to do that. The guy, when he needs to run, he's run a lot this year. He's gotten a lot of opportunities to run the ball. He's not some guy who's just your classic drop back quarterback thrower. That's not who he is. So I feel very good about this. I think there's an opportunity where TCU's defense allows him to make that happen. So I'm taking that, and I feel pretty good about it. It's a nice little number there with something that could very well happen.
All right, Mike likes that a lot. So we are going to make Stetson Bennett getting into the end zone. Today's daily bread on Daily Bets. Check it out, Mike. We're making it rain. Let's go. We're going to get Mike getting that cash in there. That's what we like. Mike, we're getting Stetson Bennett into the end zone. I like that. Like I'm Kirk Cousins at a press conference, if you want to know the truth. I like Bennett getting in there. And you're right. Quarterbacks in the big time spots are more apt to use their legs, right? Whether it's the third down or near the goal line, and especially in these kinds of games.
Let me give you one key real quick on that too, because you just raised an awareness in my mind when you said that. One thing J.J. McCarthy didn't do enough until later in the second half was use his legs. And I think Georgia's going to know, hey, we're not going to make that mistake. We're going to let Stetson use his legs as soon as possible because that's how TCU's defense could be exploited. So that is one of the keys that I think is an adjustment that they'll notice from the semifinal.
No, I think that's fair. Understanding that this is the time and seeing what Michigan did not do, understanding what opportunities may be there. I'm going to another B-side, if you will, Michael, in terms of who might get into the end zone here. I look at the anytime touchdown market for the Georgia Bulldogs, and they're huge minus numbers, Mike. Yeah. I mean, McIntosh is like minus 200. Bowers is like minus 190. Bennett yourself just barely over, into plus money. There's Ladd McConkey as well at minus money. So I'm not taking any of these guys, okay? And I realize that outside of McConkey, all right, the leading receivers for Georgia are all the backs and the tight ends. A lot of people know about Brock Bowers. He's a huge tight end that will be playing on Sundays. But do you know their number 2 tight end, Michael? Because this dude is a monster, an absolute beast. I'm talking about Darnell Washington, okay? And this is a guy, I'm not joking. The dude is playing tight end, and usually I don't just give out height and weight as part of my handicapping, but the dude is 6'7", 270. You will notice him tonight when he is on the field. He's actually the 4th leading receiver or pass catcher on the Georgia Bulldogs all season, behind only McConkey, behind Bowers, and behind McIntosh, okay? This guy is a part of it, and he is a freak in the red zone, all right? 2 of his last 4 games, he has gotten into the end zone, all right? So I think that helps me. 2 of his last 8 catches overall have been for touchdowns. And quite frankly, TCU could practice until the cows come home, Mike, and they will not understand how to match up with this guy. He is very unique in terms of just his size, speed matchup, and it's a much better number. Like I said, Bowers was minus 200. McConkey is like minus 160. McIntosh was like minus 200 as well. Darnell Washington, however, plus 260 to get into the end zone tonight. And I think they will take advantage of that. Like I said, he scored touchdowns in 2 of their last 4 games. And I don't think TCU has an answer or is ready for the mismatch that Washington is. And while I could, Michael, go around in some of these minus 110s, minus 145s and give you why I think they're going to get into the end zone. And don't get me wrong, sprinkle on them too. Parlay a couple of them as well, because they might. But I think Washington at plus 260 is a nice number.
Yeah, we're talking one-offs. I don't like to do minus on touchdown anytime. I like to find a guy that I think is very legitimate. He could very well score, like Washington. It's a great call. They've used a lot of 12 personnel with Bowers and Washington, and them together, it's really their best offensive force. It's unstoppable in the end. When they're desperate and they need plays, I think that's their best formation. So I think it's a fantastic call. It made me realize I'm probably going to put that play down myself now. You just won me over. I'm going to get over to the sportsbook right now. Boop, 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 boop.
Solidarity, my friend. That's what I like to do. That's what we do here on FTN Bets. And by the way, if you like what you see, if you like what you hear, subscribe to us on the YouTube page, smash that like button, and get down with us and make the same plays. All right. You got one more, Mike. It is, in fact, a team total. It sounds like you've been down on the Horned Frogs, and you're down on how many points they're going to score tonight as well.
Yeah. It's easy in college football, especially what you saw last weekend. That combination of those two games was very unusual. We don't see games like that combined in the college football semifinal. That was a unique run. I remember standing at the sportsbook because sometimes I go in person, believe it or not. I'm old school. I like to go in person because there's one that's oh man, it's the best of Vegas.
You could pull out when you got the whole thing. Like I like that process of it all. Absolutely, I'm with you, bro.
And and just a little quick tip for all y'all out there: it makes it more real when you have to go there in person. You're literally taking cash out. Yes. Keeps it real. It's a small technique that can limit you and prevent you from maybe getting out of control. Just a little important tidbit. So I was there, and I remember wanting to take both overs in the game. So I'm like, oh, come on. Everyone wants the overs. And I talked myself out of it. I don't know why I did that, but that's usually not how things always go. So I'm taking TCU under 24.5 for the team total here. Now, this is clearly game script dependent. If you believe that TCU is going to lose, I think this is a fairly safe call. Because even if they get a couple touchdowns, they score 3 touchdowns and a field goal, that's fine. They score 24 points. We'll take it. I'll sweat it out. I don't care. But I don't even know if it'll get that close. I really think TCU gets limited here. There could be more yardage potential, which would hurt my Duggan play, but I'm still standing behind that too. In the end, I'm taking the under because I believe this is how the game will play out. I've already explained it to you, what I think will happen. And if you are with me there, then I think this is a pretty smart call.
All right, fair enough. And I found a way for us to all get home because remember, I got over 61.5 happening. Yes. You got the 62, 63 number. So it sounds like what we're looking for is Georgia 38-24. Okay, TCU stays under that total. You put them together, it hits the 20, it hits 62. I get my money line total parlay. You get right underneath the number you got it at a little bit earlier on. And quite frankly, that's what they're telling you. I always do the exercise. Look at the point spread, look at the total, find the permutation that fits it. And quite frankly, that's the number, right? 38-24 is exactly what the book is telling you. That's why the team total is where it is. That's why the total is where it is. That's why the spread is where it is. And sometimes the books know what they are talking about. They keep on building buildings in the desert for a reason. So I think there's a way we can all get paid here. All right. And if Georgia gets 38 points, Stenson Bennett scrambles for 1 touchdown. He hits up the monster Washington for another touchdown. And then Duggar just can't get it done, starts throwing picks and YOLO balls left and right. And we've got a back-to-back national championship. How does that sound, brother man?
YOLO balls. That's fantastic. What a great
coined by Ryan Fitzpatrick, quite frankly.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, the old wise one, the Harvard master. All hail, Mr.
Coined by me as it related to Ryan Fitzpatrick's game. That's what I meant.
Well, full credit to you, Dane. You are the master. And by the way, we haven't talked about the TCU run attack at all.
Yeah.
That is really the X factor. If my play is going to hit, it's because they can actually run against Georgia, but that's the big mystery. That'll be, to me, that's the X factor in the end. Can TCU run like they did against Michigan? Probably not, but can they run enough with that 2-headed monster of Dane Mercado? But is Miller going to be available? Miller's not going to be available for this one, right? I mean, can we trust that Miller's good?
Mercado.
Yeah, so that's the problem here.
And if they get down by 2 scores, you kind of, like we said, the game script. And I used to do a live betting show. We'd be following all the live actions. And one of the terms I used to talk about all the time, Michael, was fidelity to the game plan. Right. And that's like, if you want to be a running team, you can. But if you're down 17 points, then you can't have fidelity to the game plan anymore. You have to throw it out the window and start chucking it. Right. So as long as TCU can keep it close, like you said, have fidelity to the game plan, then we may see those running backs and that run game of TCU. But I got a sneaky feeling here that Georgia knows that, like you said, Stenson Bennett, like you said, have literally history on the horizon. And I don't think, it's a nice story of TCU. And quite frankly, it's better than a nice story because they've earned their right to be here. But I don't think they're on the same level. I think Georgia does, in fact, get the job done. You got a final score, or you want to just put it together like we said, 38-24, so we can all go home happy?
Oh, I'd go happy with that, but I was thinking maybe it was 45-20, which would still work. So
that would still work. Still work. What are you working on now, though? You know, NFL is done after college football. We're going to see a ton of your picks in the NBA as well, right? With the prize picks, you're shifting your attention more to be more heavy NBA these days?
Yeah, I had this guy on Twitter. He's got like 1 million followers. He's some hip hop artist I've never heard of, and like a modern, like a newer hip hop artist. Like I know old school. We're old, right? Yeah, exactly.
I got the Wu-Tang cassette single, is what I'm talking about over here.
Exactly. I mean, like the Chronic 2001 was a long time ago, but all I'm saying is this. These people love the prize picks plays, and I love doing them. So he's like, hey, I need those NBA plays because I had like a big Christmas Day blowout. I was surprised myself. I was like, oh my God. I did take advantage of the Jokic loophole where they were giving like a free play because it was the 12 days of Pickmas there. But who cares? Hit a lot of money that day. I love the NBA plays. We still got NFL DFS, which I'm a big fan of, and we got the playoffs. So it doesn't end yet. So I'm going to be doing all my NFL playoff picks as well. I love this time of year. We got so much going on, Dane. I'm excited. So I'll just be cranking out the picks over here at FTN Bets, FTN Daily, and I cannot wait to see what happens tonight. I wonder, there's always some guy in a situation like this that comes out of nowhere. We're not going to expect it. Is there any part of you that feels like TCU can pull the upset, though, at all? Like, I know it's possible. I get that. Anything's possible, but it just doesn't seem like it.
I can't get there. I just can't get there. Now, I could get there if you give me 13.5 points, okay? But I just don't see them actually winning outright. Like I said, and
the money line.
Throw shade. I'm not trying to, I do think they belong there. Shout out, Sonny Dykes and whatnot. But I just don't think it's going to happen. I think they are, Georgia, a tier above with all that good old SEC seasoning, as it were. And I think we're going to see those back-to-back championships. Yeah. I will say this, though, Mike. Now, whether it's NBA, whether it's NFL playoffs, whether it's college basketball, whatever you have prize picks for, you are always welcome, my man, to come on over in Daily Bets and give us the daily bread. But for today, for my guy, Michael Govier, I am merely the Spittin Statistician, Dane Martinez. This has been another episode of Daily Bets. Come on back tomorrow. I'm going to have Mike Randall join the show. Speaking of college basketball,
he's good.
And my man has been hot lately on college basketball. I always say it, so hot he is sweating steam. He'll be here with me tomorrow. We'll be looking at that slate, and we'll have Michael join us again sometime real soon. But this is another episode of Daily Bets. Come on back tomorrow. Your account balance will thank us then. We'll see you there on another episode of Daily Bets.